Good morning on this October 4th and welcome to the Georgia Gang. Well wishes pour in for President Trump and the First Lady after they announced they have tested positive for the coronavirus. A new poll shows Reverend Raphael Warnock leading in Georgia's Senate race number 2 ahead of Republicans Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. And for the first time in months, Georgia is out of the red zone when it comes to the coronavirus. Barron, Phil, Janelle, and Kathy are all here as we continue to keep our distance. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
The world is reacting as the President and First Lady Melania Trump test positive for COVID-19. So let's get right to this and all of the political implications. Phil, here we are, weeks away from the election. You had told me earlier that Donald Trump Jr. was scheduled to be in Kennesaw on Monday, tomorrow, for a campaign stop. You know, about 4 weeks to go. What does this all mean?
This is a game changer. Of course, nobody wants anybody to get the COVID-19 virus. And of course, thoughts and prayers go out to the President and First Lady. But think about it. Friday was the first day since President Trump was inaugurated that the national liberal media didn't beat up on him every hour of the day. And I think that'll probably hold for a little while at least. But you're going to have his family, as you point out, that's going to be doing campaigning for him. Doctors say basically if the symptoms are mild, that after 10 days or so, the president could get back to the campaign trail and be more active. But I think that actually the sympathy that any normal, decent American would have for anyone that is tested positive for COVID is going to redound to the president politically. And so I think he's still going to be able to do his duties from the White House. But I think the national media will have to give him a pass, and hopefully I think the campaign will continue and he will continue, but it'll be very interesting over the next few days as this unfolds.
Barron, what do you think about that? I mean, we've seen Democrats and Republicans tweeting out their well wishes. I thought Mayor Bottoms had a very sensitive and non-political response. She said, quote, part of it, a COVID diagnosis is unsettling, and even more so when a loved one also tests positive. Derek and I wish the First family a speedy recovery. And of course, Mayor Bottoms speaks from experience after having a positive coronavirus diagnosis herself.
You know, that's why Atlanta is so fortunate to have Mayor Bottoms as our mayor, for her to put partisan politics aside for a moment and really sort of sympathize with the president and the First Lady and what they're going through. I also want to give my thoughts and prayers to President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, because having this virus is really nothing to play with. And so I think it's a reminder to us as Americans, but also us in politics and campaigns, that we've got to make sure that we do not let up, that we continue to wear our masks, we continue to social distance. And this should be a very striking reminder to us that if you are going to decide to participate in campaign events or rallies, please make sure that if you decide to do so, wear your mask and make sure you social distance.
Janelle, an indication of just kind of where we are politically, though, you know, if you go to Twitter, some are mocking the president, some are saying they don't believe him. What do you make of all of that?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's really sad, actually, that we can't just take a pause for a few hours to allow this to kind of digest, and for the American people to get, you know, just kind of grasp what just happened. But I certainly am saying that I want to send my prayers as well to the First family, and wishing them a speedy recovery. I totally agree that this is definitely had thrown a different aspect into the game. But I will say that, you know, I've shared the stage with the president 3 times. 2 times were during the pandemic, and all those times we were tested, we were, you know, quarantined and at least isolated until we went on the stage. We were provided these masks on Friday to everyone so that we can wear those if we needed to leave that area. I filmed at the location because they didn't want me to interact with anyone. So I definitely feel like we are doing what the CDC is required for us to do.
And Kathy, you know, you can't ignore the politics that comes into play here. We saw a tweet from Senator Kelly Loeffler who says, remember, China gave this virus to our president and First Lady. We must hold them accountable. Your response to that?
Well, I hope she means we must hold the president and the first lady accountable for not wearing masks or encouraging people to wear masks, not talking about China. We've mishandled the disease here in this country and in this state, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about Georgia. I'm sorry they're sick. We've had COVID in our household. It is not fun, and I don't, I don't celebrate that anybody has it, much less him. But I am concerned that he was on a debate stage on Tuesday night, and the question is, what did he know and when did he know it? Because my understanding is he and his entourage were asked to wear a mask while they were in the hall, and they didn't do it. So back to somebody made the comment, I think it was you, Theron, like, it ain't over. Put your mask on, continue to physically distance, don't give up, don't get tired, but get out there, make a plan, and vote. Decide who you think is best to lead us in the next 4 years.
Phil, I mean, what do you think?
Lori,
go ahead. Go ahead, Janelle.
No, I just wanted to make sure I corrected the statement. The president has encouraged people to wear masks, so that's untrue to say that he's encouraging people not to wear masks.
Phil, I want to go over to you because I want your take on what you think this means, really particularly for Georgia voters and other voters who are in these swing states. Do they steer more towards Joe Biden? Because we saw even this week during the debate, the president mocking Joe Biden for wearing a mask so much. But also, if President Trump comes out of this okay, we all pray that he does he say, you know what, I feel your pain? Does he get some type of sympathy vote as well? So I see this playing out two different scenarios here.
Well, I think that we may all agree on the panel that this is a base election. And what I mean by that is at both campaigns, the Biden and Trump campaign, are working overtime to just turn out their base in Georgia, especially. We can see it in all 50 states, frankly. And there's not that many. I don't think the debate changed all that much. I think that there's not that many undecideds left, or independents, or swing voters, or whatever you want to call them. And I think in Georgia, we're going to talk about polling in a minute, so I'll hold off on commenting on that. But I think that the debate basically, I didn't like a lot of the interruptions. I think somebody counted Trump had 100 and Biden had about 65. And I think that both men have to tone it down. You can still take hard shots, but I think Donald Trump still did triumph in terms, and you can see this in Georgia, in terms of law enforcement. Biden couldn't even say those two words when he was challenged.
Well, I don't even think you could call it a debate. I was captain of my high school debate team, and I think I would have been disqualified had I done any of that on Tuesday night. But Theron, we know President Trump likes to be out with his supporters on the campaign trail. He has really dinged the vice president for being, in his basement. How do you think this impacts the campaign for the next few weeks, especially because we were probably expecting visits from the president here in Georgia?
Yeah, continue to be fully disclosed. I am one of the senior advisors here in Georgia for the Biden campaign. And Lori, just to take our viewers kind of inside a little bit, and this is all public, we were in the process of beginning to begin a phased approach to start doing more in-person campaigning. But with this this recent news, we've had to really sort of stop and pause in the Biden campaign. But I will tell you this. One thing that I'm very happy about from Vice President Biden, immediately when we got the news of President Trump and First Lady Trump, he expressed his sympathy and his encouragement, but he told all of us as staffers to make sure that we continue to follow the guidelines. Let's hold off on doing in-person events and make sure that we take this very seriously. And so it has sort of paused both campaigns for a little bit, but everyone is experts, and we'll figure out how to make sure that people get out to vote come November 3rd.
And we'll really see what this means also for the races down ballot. We'll see, what this means for the campaign trails and in-person events as well. So thank you all so much. Well, coming up, a big week for Raphael Warnock and Doug Collins in Senate race number 2. We'll discuss straight ahead.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Big news this week in Georgia's Senate race number 2. The latest numbers from the Quinnipiac poll of more than 1,100 likely voters show Raphael Warnock, a Democrat, with a pretty big lead at 31%, followed by the Republicans' incumbent Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. Kathy, over to you. Why do you think we've seen this big jump here for Warnock all of a sudden?
Well, I think it times a little bit with the arrival of absentee ballots. I think people are now considering what they're going to do, and they have their answer. What I thought was interesting about that poll is you're seeing Matt Lieberman really stall out. Looks like about half of the people who said they support him are open to voting for somebody else. So I think you're going to see a bigger shift. It's a really, the gain in the last 2 weeks for Warnock has been substantial, and I think it's real momentum at this stage of the campaign. And
a lot has to do with money. Janelle, I'll point out you're with Team Kelly Loeffler, but how do you explain these numbers when she is spending so much money?
I think it has a lot more to do with the unity that's happening on the Democratic side when it comes to this particular race. You know, just a few weeks ago, they called for Democrats for Matt Lieberman to drop out of the race. So I think they're trying to drive their entire base to one candidate, which kind of shifts the focus on the Republican side. I don't want what the Republicans feared from the very beginning to happen when you have two Republicans kind of splitting the vote. So I personally feel like this is, and I've said it before, I think this is the perfect time for Collins to back out of this race and push his support towards Loeffler. This way we don't have to worry about being outfunded, outspent going into the next race, because if it comes down to two Republicans and one Democrat, that's not a good look for us. So I really think the Republicans, we need to really look at this from a different perspective.
So Phil, let's get some balance here for Doug Collins. He got the endorsement of the former governor this week, Nathan Deal, a fellow Gainesville resident. And Collins is also out with, I think, is a very powerful ad where we see his daughter, who has spina bifida, talk about her dad. How does he continue his fight to get into the runoff?
Well, I think Collins is in better shape this week. I will make one comment on the Quinnipiac poll. If you look at the 2016 polling they did and also in 2018, they've been unreliable. And a lot of pollsters know that they skew maybe 3 or 4 points Democrat. But as I say, I think Doug Collins had a good week. I don't think he's dropping out. Sorry, Janelle. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I think that basically you're going to see the race tightening. Warnock, yes, is gaining. I don't think he's gaining that much. Both Republicans are, according to this poll, if you can believe it, around 45%. So I do think that it'll tighten with Loeffler and Collins very close, and Warnock right in there with them. It could be a real tight three-way.
Yes, Theron, weigh in on this race.
Yeah, I agree totally with Kathy in regards to Pastor Warnock's campaign. I mean, you've seen his ads get better. He's really sort of, I think, tapping into an emotion in the Democratic Party that Janelle just talked about. We are calling for unity, and I do believe that he is the consensus Democratic candidate just based on the campaign that he's running. But Phil, made a big point. To have the endorsement of former Governor Deal is really a big deal for the Collins campaign. I mean, this is the biggest endorsement that former Governor Deal has made. But also, Kelly Loeffler just has so much money and such a profile where you can't count her out either. So I just want Warnock to make it to the runoff, and then I'll let the Republicans decide who they want to put in the runoff as well.
Well, let's talk about Georgia's other Senate race. And not much real news to report this week other than the poll, which shows that this is still a very close race. John Ossoff, 49%, David Perdue at 48%. Janelle, considering the presidential poll numbers also in this poll that was released, it shows Biden up just a few points. Is President Trump hurting David Perdue since he's been so closely tied to President Trump?
No, I don't think President Trump is hurting him at all. And I like I said, I'm always a little leery of these polls because I know there's so many Republicans who just refuse to poll. So it's kind of, to Phil's point, I mean, they kind of do skew a little bit to the left. But when it comes to the Perdue-Ossoff race, I want to see a debate. I want to see some type of debate with them too, because at the end of the day, when you look at their records, they just don't match up. Senator Perdue has a much stronger record and proven results. So I think that, despite all the ads and all the money that Ossoff is putting on his attack ads against Perdue, I really think that a debate is going to easily decide that one.
Kathy, I want to hear your thoughts on this Senate race. We call it Senate race number 1, right? We really haven't seen President Trump in Senator Perdue's ads. What do you think John Ossoff has to do to accomplish what would be really a huge upset in this race?
Well, I think everything is coming down to turnout. I mean, all of these races are ultimately within the margin of error. The Senate race number 2 is a little weird in terms of how it breaks down and how because it's an open primary with everybody running together. But really what you're seeing in the presidential and in both of these Senate races is there are very few undecideds. That we are very evenly split between Democratic voters and Republican voters, and it's going to come down to passion and turnout, and I think that is undoubtedly on the Democratic side. And so unless something really substantial changes in the next 30 days, in terms of issues, and who knows, maybe the president's diagnosis will be that. I don't know how that will play out. I think what you're going to see is that the passion of Democrats to get out and vote and change the political situation is going to weigh out, but not by much.
Phil, I want to get your take on these undecideds. I think there's 2%. I don't know anybody who's undecided. But my question is, do you think the 2% even comes out to vote, or do they just stay home?
Oh, I think we'll have a high turnout. I think the undecideds will finally decide. Political scientists say a lot of times the undecideds may go with the incumbent. I don't know if that's going to hold true. This has been a crazy political year, but I do think we're going to pivot toward the economy. President Trump does so well in all the polling, very high, whether you like polling or not. And I do think that that could be the winning thing. And of course, COVID is obviously going to be an issue too, along with security and law and order.
Well, we know COVID's front and center right now for sure. Thanks, everybody. Well, coming up, some good news to report on the coronavirus here in Georgia. For the first time in months, we are out of the red zone, and we'll discuss that straight ahead.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
For the first time in months, the White House puts Georgia in the orange zone when it comes to the coronavirus, with under 100 cases per 100,000 people. Theron, we've been going down for 10 weeks in the numbers of cases. And this week, Governor Kemp extended the coronavirus restriction, warning Georgians, though, not to let up on social distancing and masks. And now, with the coronavirus diagnoses of the president and the First Lady, I think that's extremely powerful advice right now.
Yeah, this is good news, and we are headed in the right direction, but we are not out of the woods yet. And so while we are seeing better numbers out of Georgia, meaning that there are lower amount of people who are testing positive, we've got to continue to wear our masks. We've got to continue to wash our hands. We've got to continue to social distance ourselves. And then we also make sure we got to follow the federal and state guidelines. And so, also Governor Kemp has expressed this concern, but also you have all these mayors across Georgia. Mayor Bottoms came out this week and said that she thinks that part of the reason why we've seen the numbers continue to decline is because of the mandates like her and others kind of put in place to require people to wear their mask, and also having a phased approach towards reopening. And so I just hope that all these leaders will continue to work together.
And Janelle, we're still reminded, we're far from in the clear as the state of Georgia surpassed 7,000 deaths this week.
Yeah, so I'm actually extremely proud of our governor as well as, it's Dr. Toomey and the coronavirus team, because they tackled this. The White House report, as you stated, shows that we're in a good space. We had the lowest rate of spread on Monday. Hospitalizations are at its all-time lowest. New cases are definitely going down. But I want to make sure I highlight, too, that we also have the lowest unemployment of any state in the country. And so the governor has been able to successfully manage COVID-19 as well as keep the state and the statewide economy going without putting a mandate on the mask. So I think that at the end of the day, it shows that it's all about working together and kind of riding them out together as it relates to managing the health of people as well as the economy.
Kathy, I was going to go right to you about the questions on the ballots, but I want you to respond because I know you want to respond to Janelle there.
Yeah, please Please, please. I think, one of the things that we're doing is being lulled into thinking that the new normal is better. So it's important to know that we have double the number of cases that we had in May, and we have 70% higher hospitalizations than we had in June, and University of Georgia has the most transmissions of any college campus in the country. We are not out of the woods. We just have a new normal, and it's better than it was.
All right, well, let's switch gears because I know you really wanted to talk to viewers about the 3 questions that we'll be seeing on the ballot: fees and taxes, sovereign immunity, and nonprofit issues. Kathy, you want to run down them real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to be as quick as I can be. So question number 1 relates to the General Assembly being able to make sure that fees that are supposed to go into certain funds stay in those funds and don't get used for other purposes. This is a good one. I think you should support it because when you pay $1 for a fee to get a tire recycled, we ought to be spending $1 to get a tire recycled. The second one I have more concerns about, and it relates to a citizen's ability to sue the government. There's a lot of politics behind this particular issue. It passed the General Assembly unanimously to get on this ballot. I don't like it because I don't think you should pass a constitutional amendment that if you come up with an unintended consequence, you can't take it back without a constitutional amendment. We'll have to devote a little more time to this. I would say that people in the General Assembly would tell you to pass it. I think you ought to look a little closer at it. The last 2 are about homestead exemptions and tax exemptions for organizations or individuals that are seeking affordable housing. The most I'll say about that is that these are good things to do. And again, check it out for yourself, and maybe we can talk about constitutional amendment number 2 at another time.
We will revisit. Phil, you can weigh in on those, but I also want to talk about, we learned Fulton County this week is spending a lot of money on the election season, making an effort to get it right this time. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's right. I would vote yes on all 3. I think Kathy did a pretty good job explaining it. And on number 2, when she's talking about waiving sovereign immunity, there is some confusion. And I would just say that this would not really affect our first responders and police officers because they will still have legally what they call qualified immunity. But as for Fulton County, and of course, that's been the problem child for how many election cycles now? We've been talking about it on the gang for years. Yes, they're trying to spend some money, but I'm making the losers, the Fulton County Board of Elections, because they're refusing to have hearings on 14,000 of these unqualified voters that are still on the rolls that have been documented by an attorney and plaintiffs. And so I would hope they get this straight. We've still got some time to get unqualified people off the rolls in Fulton County.
Theron, I've got about 20 seconds. Last word.
No, I agree with Phil that definitely Fulton County should be applauded that they are making efforts. If you look at what Chairman Rob Pitts has been saying of Fulton County, that he wants to be hands-on in this, and Richard Barron, who's the election chief in Fulton County, I like the fact that they're adding polling locations and they're adding locations for people to drop off their absentee ballots and secure drop boxes. And so I think this is definitely a good sign working towards November 3rd.
We will see in a few weeks. Thanks, everybody. And coming up, your favorite winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
A quick shout out from me to the Fleetwoods. They are avid viewers of the Georgia Gang, so I just wanted to say hi to them. Love running into viewers out there on the road. This week we will start with Kathy.
Great, thanks. Well, first, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow, October 5th, is the last day to register to vote in the presidential election, so get on out there and register if you haven't done it. And I just want to congratulate the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta and an organization called Rest in Peace Medical Debt for buying down $10 million of medical debt for some people in DeKalb County who really needed the help. It was a great gesture, but a bigger one would be Medicaid expansion and an expansion of the Affordable Care Act.
All right, and that's a great reminder about your registration to vote. Janelle, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm reserving my whole winner section, or the winners part of it, to the president. Again, sending prayers to him and First Lady Melania Trump so that they will have a speedy recovery. I'm really hoping for that. But I do have a loser. My loser this week is Senator Nikema Williams. She recently tweeted a really classless tweet about the president's health, and it wasn't even in alignment with what her party was saying. But it just shows poor leadership. So I encourage all the voters in District 5 to vote Angela Stanton King in November.
Okay, Phil, over to you. A little less than 2 minutes in the show for your time cue.
Okay, I'm going to stick with my law enforcement theme and make winners the Republican candidates, especially Metro Atlanta, people like Alex Kaufman or Deborah Silcox or Lindsey Rudder, many others who are supporting the Police Protection Act that was pushed by the Republicans to give an extra layer of protection to first responders, especially the police. And it is shocking to see most Democrats, not all, but most Democrats, especially in Metro Atlanta, are against that Police Protection Act. Losers. That's it for now. I'll have more next week, though.
Wow, Farron, he's giving you a little bit of time. We've got about a minute.
I know. Thank you, Phil. Well, unfortunately, I've got to offer some condolences this week. We all read the story about the Fulton County deputies who lost their life with a wreck on I-20. Fulton County Sheriff Deputy Anthony White and also Sheriff Deputy Kenny Ingram. So I want to definitely express my condolences to their family. Also, Lori Angelique Proctor did a really good story this week at Fox 5 where 18-year-old Anjanae McLean lost her life, unfortunately, 18 years old with a high-speed chase. And then lastly, my winner is going to be Mayor Bottoms. This week she issued an executive order which will allow all city employees to take 8 hours of paid leave to go volunteer and work as poll workers during the election. So I think this is a really big deal for the city of Atlanta for the mayor to do this, and I want to make her my winner this week.
All right, thank you all so much. We should mention a big happy birthday to President Carter, who turned 96 this week. Happy birthday, cancer survivor. He's done so much, and we appreciate you all so much for tuning in. We will see you again next week.